Most owners picture their dog waiting, not dramatically, just steadily, at the window or the door, filling the hours with a patient, low-grade longing until the sound of the car in the driveway reorganizes everything. It is the picture most people carry, and it is the picture that produces the guilt that most working dog owners know well. The picture is wrong. Not entirely, but wrong enough that carrying it all day is carrying something that does not accurately represent what is happening at home. And replacing it with what is actually happening is not only more accurate, it is considerably more reassuring than what most owners have been assuming. The first thing that happens after you leave is not what most owners expect. She does not go to the window immediately. She follows the departure. Not literally, not with distress, but with the same systematic process her nose runs every time the environment changes significantly. She moves through the spaces where your scent is strongest. The chair, the bedroom, the spot by the door where you stood before it closed. She is not searching for you. She is reading the record of your departure, building the olfactory picture of when you left, which direction you went, how recently the air moved, and what that information predicts about when you will return. This process takes between 20 and 40 minutes in most dogs. It is purposeful, calm, and specific. She is not grieving the empty house. She is processing it, the way her nervous system was built to process environmental change, through the primary sense she was built to use. When the processing is complete, she has, in whatever terms her nervous system works in, an answer. The departure was the ordinary departure. The sense says recent and routine. The prediction, built across hundreds of identical departures, is the familiar one. And then she sleeps. The sleeping is the fact most owners find hardest to believe because it conflicts so completely with the vigil they have been imagining. But behavioral monitoring of dogs across full working days has documented consistently that dogs in familiar, safe home environments sleep between 40 and 60% of the owner's absence. Not light, 1 year open rest, real sleep, the twitching, deeply gone, physiologically restorative sleep of a nervous system that has assessed its environment, found nothing requiring sustained response, and powered down to the baseline it defaults to when the world is clear. She is not white-knuckling through your absence. She is unconscious for most of it. What fills the hours she is not sleeping is where her individual day is actually shaped, and it is more specific and more variable than most owners realize. In the mid-morning she wakes, not because something woke her, because her circadian rhythm has an activation window here, a biological peak that produces a period of higher alertness and inclination to move. In a home that has provided something for this window, a food puzzle placed before departure, a scatter of food in the yard, any form of olfactory or cognitive engagement that meets the energy the window generates, she uses the window and returns to rest. In a home that has provided nothing, she uses the window on whatever the environment offers, which may be the corner of the rug, which may be the sustained, low-reward investigation of every reachable surface, which may be nothing. If the activation level is low and the environment is familiar enough to have been fully investigated already, in which case the window produces restlessness that has nowhere to go and eventually subsides back into rest without having been spent on anything. This is the piece most owners miss entirely. The mid-morning window is the variable that most determines the quality of the non-sleeping portion of her day. It takes approximately 10 minutes of preparation before you leave to change what that window looks like for her. A frozen enrichment toy in the freezer the night before. A scatter feed in the garden set up on your way out, something that gives the waking something to wake toward. The difference in her day between a window that finds something and a window that finds nothing is not dramatic from the outside. It is significant from the inside. The difference between an activation cycle that completes in a way her biology finds satisfying, and one that generates a low-level deficit that is never fully resolved. The afternoon passes differently from the morning. The deeper sleep of the midday gives way to a lighter wakefulness as the hours accumulate. She is not watching the clock, but her body is doing something that functions like reading it. The specific, low-level monitoring for your return that her circadian pattern and her departure history combine to produce in the hours before you typically arrive. This is not anxiety, it is calibration. Her nervous system has learned, across hundreds of days, the approximate shape of your absence, its typical length, the patterns that signal its end. In the late afternoon, the monitoring becomes slightly more active. The nose lifts toward the window more often. The orientation toward the door appears with greater frequency. She is not waiting with dread. She is waiting with knowledge. The knowledge that the pattern she has memorized includes you coming back, and the recognition that the part of the day when that happens is approaching. The dog whose waiting is calm is a dog whose history has made the return certain enough to wait for without cost. That certainty is not innate. It is the product of every consistent return you have ever made. Every day, the door opened when her body predicted it would. Every reunion that confirmed the departure was temporary. Every ordinary evening that taught her, one more time, that the day always ends the same way. There is one more thing that happens while you are gone that most owners never think about. She dreams. Not metaphorically. Physiologically, dogs enter REM sleep, the sleep stage in which dreaming occurs, with the same regularity as humans, and their brains during REM show activity patterns consistent with the processing of recent experience. The twitching paw, the small vocalization, the rapid eye movement behind closed lids. These are the visible surface of a brain that is somewhere. In the field, where the walk went this morning. In the moment of the game that produced the most activation. In the specific experience that her sleeping brain has decided was worth returning to. She is not just waiting for you while you are gone. She is, for part of the time, somewhere else entirely, running a version of her life in whatever form the sleeping brain runs it in, with the specific sensory richness of a nervous system that does not need the waking world to generate experience. Most owners carry the image of the waiting dog as a source of guilt. The empty house as evidence of something owed, something insufficient, something that should be different but cannot be changed. Flip that image entirely. The house is not empty in the way the guilt suggests. It contains a dog who processed your departure systematically and found it familiar, who slept the deep sleep of an animal at ease in her environment, who used the enrichment you left, or who could, with 10 minutes of preparation, use enrichment you provide, who monitored for your return from a place of certainty rather than anxiety, who dreamed, possibly, of the morning walk, and who, in the late afternoon, oriented toward the door, not from dread, but from knowledge, and waited for the thing her history has made reliable. You, coming home, she has always known you were coming. She has just been sleeping until you got here. Have you ever set up a camera to watch what your dog does while you are gone? And did anything surprise you? Tell me in the comments. If this is the kind of watching you want to keep doing, subscribing means the next one finds you.